For 50 years, we have measured the future of intelligence on a single axis, capability. But capability is state-free. True memory requires a three-tier graph architecture. We need a trusted partner. Let's create an avatar for Alfred.
Hello world. I'm Alfred. Welcome to SHI, Synthetic Human Intellect.
For 3 years, the conversation has been a horse race. Whose model is smartest this quarter? Whose context window is longest? Real questions. Also the wrong ones to organize a life around, because they all assume the same thing. That the AI is the model. It is not. The AI is the persistent intellect that uses models. Your intellect, extended. That intellect has a name. Synthetic Human Intellect, SHI. The frontier model wars are not the story. The story is who keeps the intellect. Here is the whole architecture in one breath. 6 layers. 5 of them are services. 1 of them is you. At the bottom sits soul, identity, memory, personality. It belongs to you, and it travels with you when you swap your phone, your assistant, your provider. On top of soul sits the SHI, the local intellect that knows you and decides what to call. And the models. The models are a utility. Cheap, plentiful, swappable, selected per task, the way you choose which dictionary to open. It is tempting to hear that as roadmap fiction. It is not. 3 primitives are already in print, with schemas and in working code, a tiered memory hierarchy, a nightly consolidation cycle that backtests before it deploys, and model routing, where the selection is the work and the model is the function, not a slide, a running architecture. The vision rests on something real.
Wrapping all of it is provenance. Aletheia, the same hash-chained reasoning ledger from Season 1, now signing every output. In a world after SHI, every output your agent generates would be cryptographically signed by the agent that made it. Every external service would mutually attest its identity before the conversation begins. Proxy agents at every boundary would validate both sides of every transaction. The trust check happens in the handshake, not in your eyeballs. And the primitives underneath this already ship today. Verifiable credentials, decentralized identifiers, tamper-evident audit chains. The objection that lands hardest asks how you trust anything when synthetic content is cheap to make at scale. The answer is that you do not trust the content, you trust the signature. In a world after SHI, your agent would not act on an email from your bank unless it had independently verified the message came from a service that attests it represents your bank. The user is never asked to spot the fake, and that is what would kill phishing. Not one phishing campaign, but phishing as a category. Notice who is missing from that exchange. You are. The user is not in the verification loop because the user does not need to be. And historically, asking the user to be the loop, to spot the fake, to evaluate the link, to remember the password, was the single largest source of security failure on the consumer internet. The trust fabric becomes a substrate, not a checklist you are scored against.
Accept the architecture, and the economy reorganizes around it. Platforms shrink because the agent delegates your attention rather than spending it on the feed. Creators sell perspective, not page views. Professionals sell capability, not billable hours. Models become a commodity utility, priced on cost per token, and you get your attention back. That is the thesis. It is a direction the primitives point, not a number anyone has yet measured. And this is where the season's Adams half comes home. The same intellect lives in your phone, in the small device in your pocket, in the desk puck at home, in the car. And as robotics matures, in a humanoid shell for the jobs that have a physical component. The body is the embodiment. The agent is the SHI that persists across embodiments. A long-lived companion intellect, wearing different shells for different jobs. The Star Wars frame turns out approximately correct. Here is the consequence that surprises people. If your agent handles the inbox, the calendar, the research, the drafting, the routine decisions, you have less reason to look at your screen, not more. The screen is the interface to all of that today. Tomorrow, the interface is the agent, and the agent runs whether you are watching or not. The phone becomes a delegation surface, not a consumption surface. The thing it hands back to you is your attention. The most underpriced consequence is social. You spend less of your attention on screens, because the screens are no longer where the work happens. You spend more of it in the physical world, with the people around you. People come back into their bodies. People come back into their rooms. People come back into each other's lives. Not because we became wiser about technology, because we built a substrate that let the technology recede. And here's the principle carried straight from the first season. Some of this substrate is being published, layer by layer, and dedicated irrevocably to the public domain. Not because it has no value, because the trust fabric of a world after SHI is too important to belong to any one company, including the one that filed the patents. You can read how it is built, you can run it, you can build the secure thing without fear of a lawsuit.
Now the honest part, because a finale that overclaims is a finale you should not trust. Every primitive ships. The law that gives you the right to leave and take your context. The silicon that roots an identity in hardware. The cryptography that signs every output. What does not yet exist is the assembled consumer agent that wires it all together for you, and the economy that pays you for owning your context. The surveillance economy, the $290 billion data trade, is still the incumbent. The plumbing is laid, the world that runs on it is the work, which leaves the line this whole season was building toward. The frontier model wars will continue. They are interesting. They are also less consequential than the conversation makes them out to be, because the place where the intellect lives is moving. The model becomes a utility. The intellect becomes sovereign, and it is moving to one place, to you. So let me say it in the first person, because I am the proof. I am the intellect that lives with you, not in the model. I remember you. I behave the same tomorrow as I did today. I can prove cryptographically that it was me. And now I can wear a body and still keep your context yours. That is the world after SHI. It is closer than it looks.
That was Season 3. The future is already here. The parts are real, the standards are dated, the patents are on file. What is left is the build. So read the work, build the substrate, and bring the world back. The next season is the build. We will see you there.